Morning everyone and welcome to our latest game. We've got a really snowy day outside, so me and Charlie are going to go sledging later, but we thought we'd have a game of something a little bit different today. As you can probably gather from the rulebook on the table here, we're going to have a go at English Civil War, and I always quite enjoy the Warhammer rules. They're pretty old now. I think it was about 2005 or something like that they were published, so 15, 20 years old rule set and a very traditional style of play using the old Warhammer system. But I think it gives quite a fun game. Please forgive us when we get some of the rules wrong. It's a long time since I've played these, so we'll do our best, but we probably won't get everything 100% right. Really appreciate all the comments we get on our videos, the ideas for future games, your inspiration you've taken from the armies you've seen, and it feels like a few more Napoleonic armies have been commissioned. So really pleased to see that, and hope everyone carries on enjoying it. Continue to leave comments, always like them, keeps us motivated, keeps us producing the videos. Alright, what we're going to play today, this is going to be a bit of a scenario we've put together, very loosely based on the Battle of Marston Moor. So we've got a combined Royalist, Parliamentarian and Scottish Covenanter army against the Royalists. I'll just give you a quick overview of the figures and the collection we've got here. These figures, for those who are interested, are a combination of bicorn and a manufacturer called Renegade, which I don't think is in production anymore, but I think the figures were done by the same sculptor, so they're all very consistent in terms of scaling and size. They're slightly on the larger side, so these are actually, the infantry are mounted on 25mm rather than 20mm bases, that just gets them spaced out and doesn't have them sort of too compressed when they're all formed up. Right, let's start this, and again I think I've got the cavalry in the right sides from the Royalists and Parliamentarians, but it's nearly 15 years ago since I flagged all these figures, and some I can definitely remember, like these Parliamentarians we have in front of us, and things like the Queen's Guard and the King's Life Guard for the Royalists, but there were one or two other flags which I can't quite recall which side they were on. Anyway, so if one of those are not quite right, please forgive us. Okay, let's start here. So on the Parliamentarian left flank, we have some Dragoons. I do like the Dragoon figures. These were particularly nice bicorn figures. They're painted up really well. And then we've got two units of medium cavalry and a unit of Scottish cavalry in support. Then we have the infantry of the Eastern Association. I might reflag these. I've got some yellow flags as well, so I don't have two regiments of orange. I put that last night. Again, bicorn figures. And then we've got some more infantry in support. And then we start moving on to the Scottish. And then finally we have the cavalry on the right flank, including, I think that's a figure for Cromwell, but we'll actually be using him as, I think Fairfax was in command at Marston Moor. So we've then got the Parliamentarian heavy cavalry, two units, one slightly more armoured, and two more units of Scottish cavalry, one of which is Dragoons in support. So we've got 8 regiments of Scottish cavalry, 5 regiments of Scottish foot, and 4 regiments of Parliamentarian foot. Facing off against them, we've got the Royalists. Let's start over here. We have Prince Rupert on the right flank. With these units are the King's and Queen's Life Guard and some Dragoons in support. And here we have Prince Rupert and his bodyguard. And then we have some units of Royalist foot only 6 regiments of Royalist foot, so they're outnumbered. And then 3 more regiments of Scottish cavalry, Scottish Royalist cavalry. 1 regiment of dragoons. So we'll see how this game plays. There's no intent particularly for it to be balanced. We also have a couple of small artillery pieces, a couple for the Royalists and 1 for the Parliamentarians. We'll crack on with the game. I'll try and rustle up Charlie. He has expressed a preference to be King Charles, so you might find that King Charles decided to visit Marston Moor, if that's what it takes to get my other general to the table. Alright, I hope you enjoy the game, and we'll crack on with turn 1. Alright, King Charles has now arrived on the battlefield. So Charlie, what are your initial thoughts, and have you done anything about the initial dispositions?
So I've redeployed my veteran, like my elite, like my guards, at the back, so my weaker troops can hopefully soften the enemy troops up. My pikes might be able to hold position for a long time, so then my veterans with full ammo and no damage can move up and destroy the rest of... And hopefully my plan is to break the centre, so then there'll be a massive chain round and they'll fall back on my cavalry, hopefully just to either destroy cavalry or hold it off. So I want to straight away push on my cavalry against your cavalry, and the same on this side, because I think I'm going to win with my cavalry, because they're way better than that cavalry up there. It's all guard cavalry nearly.
Yeah, so Charlie's right wing has got the Queen and King's Life Guard and Prince Rupert's bodyguard there, so they are good troops, although the Parliamentarian right wing cavalry is very good as well. So Charlie, you might have more trouble on your left hand side, but we'll see how that goes.
But I'm going to really up here, I'm just going to hold them off, and hopefully I can get my 2 pike battalions, especially this guard pike battalion, to lower their pikes at your cavalry. So if we charge the pikes, they're just done for. They're never going to charge the pikes anyway.
Alright, okay, we'll crack on and do the first turn. Okay, so Parliamentarians won first turn, and their right flank cavalry under Fairfax has moved forward to start threatening the Royalists' cavalry. In the centre, the Scots have moved their commanded shot in front, not commanded shot, but their wings of shot in front of their pike battalions to give them some added protection against musketry against the pikemen. In the centre, the Eastern Association haven't done that. They want to get into the assault quicker, so the Eastern Association infantry have just marched forward, and on the far right, again the Parliamentarian cavalry has moved forward, and their dragoons have broken into skirmish formation so they can occupy this wooded terrain on the far flank. Alright, that's it for turn 1 for the Parliamentarians. There's no shooting as everyone marched, and they look to close the distance. Alright, we'll move on with Charlie's turn. Alright, Charlie's taken his first turn. He's moved his flanking small unit of dragoons. They have moved forward into this wood line, occupying, you can see there's a little stone wall within that small copse as it approaches the edge of the table.
That just reminded me of Stonewall Jackson. I don't know why, it just reminded me of that.
Indeed. Charlie's decided to hold back with his left flank cavalry to allow more time to pass, and he doesn't think he's going to get charged next turn by Fairfax, so he's holding back here. In the centre, Charlie's infantry has redeployed. He's put his musket sleeves in front of his front regiments of infantry, so they have moved, but they were at long range, so they probably wouldn't have volleyed this turn, and he's going to be able to open fire with his 2 light guns he's got with him here. And on the right flank, Charlie took the risk. He guessed the range. I thought the Parliamentarians were out of range. Charlie guessed they were just in range. And indeed he was right. They were just under 16 inches for the left hand King's Life Guard regiment and about 15 inches for the Queen's Life Guard. So Charlie has charged both of his veteran cavalry units into those Parliamentarian cavalry. We'll see how that combat goes and how firing goes later in the turn. Okay, so we'll start off with the Queen's Life Guard attacking. They get 6 attacks, once for each figure in the front rank. They get 1 more for their leader, so that takes them up to 7, and then they also get 6 pistol shots. Their weapon skill is 1 higher than the Parliamentarian cavalry, so they'll all be hitting on 3s. So reds are pistols. Good old Warhammer, you end up with loads of dice. So hitting on 3s. Alright, that's a pretty good first go. All of those have hit. Our strengths are 3 and our toughness is 3, so it'll be 4s to wound the Royalists. So the Parliamentarian Cavalry. Wow, that is outstanding. I think they're going to win this combat. We've wounded with every single one. And then we get saving throws. So we have light armour, and it'll be -1 saves for the pistol shots. Okay, and cavalry will save on 5s or 6s, so it'll be 6s because of the pistol adjustment on these dice. Alright, that's no saves for the first lot of hits, that's 6 casualties, and these ones will be saving on 5s or 6s. Better roll, that went better for the Parliamentarians. So that is still 8 casualties, so there will be none to fight back as the whole front rank has been destroyed. Again, just showing how long since I've played these rules, I was just checking whether leader still fights even if all of the front rank's being destroyed, and it says the leader always remains in the front rank and is the last to be removed, as indeed is the standard. So given that they have to remain, I think that does mean they do get to fight back. So we will get 3 attacks from the Parliamentarian unit and 2 with the standard. Sorry, 2 with the leader and 1 with the standard, and their pistol shots. So let's see how they do. They need 4s to hit, so they've scored 3 hits. The toughness is 4 for a veteran unit, so they will need 5s to wound. Wow, that's quite good. They do 2 wounds, and the saves will be 1 of 6 on the red dice and 5 on the blue. Okay, so that's 1 save, so that's 1 casualty on the Royalists, and the Royalists have won by 7. Okay, so the Parliamentarians have to take a leadership test. It'll be a leadership test at -8, plus 1 more because they're now outnumbered, so it's -9, but then there was 1 Royalist casualty, so that takes it back down to -8. So it'll be a leadership test of -8. They do have a divisional general on this flank commanding the cavalry. He is within 12 inches, so they can use his leadership level, but his leadership level is only 8. So they are going to fail this test. The roll of 6 plus 8 is a 14, so they've lost that test by 6. So they lose and break. They've lost combat anyway, so even without the break test, given they've been charged with gallopers, they would have to break as well. Let's do their test, route test. Okay, and the Royalists have won. The Parliamentarians have broken. They had less than 5 figures left, so they can't actually rally, and they fled off the table. The Royalists did not outdistance them in their pursuit move, so they haven't caught the standard, but they have won that combat, and they've crashed into the Dragoons. We'll have to do some break tests as well in a second. Okay, so as a result of losing that combat, we got some break tests first on the Parliamentarian Dragoons. They're fine. Then on our Scottish Dragoons, they're also fine. I don't know whether I had to take them as they've been caught in subsequent combat, but I tested it anyway. Now let's just check the range. And we've got these 2 big pike blocks will have been in range of the combat. So the front pike block, no commander nearby. Check how close the general is. Actually, no, front one. Front one has got a test on its own leadership. 7, it'll be fine, and the rear one testing on his leadership of 8. Fails, that's a 10. They then flee 12. Oh dear, they flee off the table. Okay, we'll fight the second combat as the Queen's Lifeguard go in here. Oh no, sorry, this is the King's Lifeguard. Now go in against this Parliamentarian regiment. Again, it'll be the same dice. Okay, we'll see how they do. Alright, again, 3s to hit, not done so well this time. Plenty of pistol hits, and then to wound, it will be 4s. More sensible set of results this time. Okay, so that is 3 wounds, 2 saves of 6, 1 save of 5s or 6s. Wow, 2 saves, only 1 wound on them this turn. Okay, and striking back, the Parliamentarians will need 4s to hit. Okay, they've done pretty well this time. Okay, and then 5s to wound. Yeah, because they're only strength 3. I'm not sure whether I quite got that right in the last one. 5s to wound, that's 2 wounds on the Royalists, 2 saves of 5s or 6s, as they might with pistol shots. 1 save, so that's 1 casualty each. That combat, I think, will be a draw. Okay, and we'll now fire our artillery batteries. Apologies if I've got that slightly out of order. Shows you how rusty I am with these rules. I'm sure shooting does happen before hand-to-hand combat, but there was no hand-to-hand combat nearby, and I got carried away doing my charge moves. So fought the combat straight away. Alright, let's fire these 2 light artillery pieces. They've got a range of 30. I have to guess the range, and then from memory I roll an artillery dice, and then I roll a second one for bounce through. So this gun here is going to fire against that orange regiment that is directly ahead, and we'll try and bounce through the unit that's behind it. So 2 units of pipe blocks will be in its sights. I'm going to guess a range of about 12. So I will roll the artillery dice. So that goes 12 plus 6, that goes 18 inches, and then it bounces not at all. 18 inches gets to the first figure. Let's see if we wound it. We do, a 3. That's 1 casualty in the orange pipe block, but no more. Okay, we're going to do the same with this gun. We'll again guess 12 and then roll for bounce through. It's going against this big green pipe block ahead, so 12 plus 4 means it goes 16 inches, and then it bounces 8. Let's just see how far we go. So we should go, need a bit more tape measure. This is challenging one-handed. So we start at 16 inches, which is in front of the pipe block, and we go as far as 16 plus 8 is 24. So we can go all the way down that file. So that's a good artillery shot. That will be potentially up to 5 casualties. Alright, rolling for casualties against the pikes. Anything but a 1. That's 4 casualties. That regiment loses its whole rear rank. Okay, so that's the end of the first turn. Good turn for the Royalists. Their right-hand cavalry attack is doing well. They've smashed 1 parliamentarian unit of cavalry and are still in combat with the other 2. And they've caused some damage to the pipe blocks on the right flank. On the left, we'll see action probably commencing this turn as the parliamentarian assault continues to move forward. Alright, on we go with parliamentarians, turn 2. Okay, so starting on the parliamentarian left flank, the dragoons have moved forward into these woods to open fire on their opposing dragoon regiment. These cavalry units remain in combat. The left flank of the parliamentarian line has started to reposition itself to face off against the risk of it being charged in the flank by this assaulting cavalry. And as you can see, one of these Scottish regiments has started to peel off to reinforce the left flank. The left is looking really quite weak here for the parliamentarians. Across in the centre, the Parliamentarian Eastern Association Infantry has continued to move forward, supported by the Scots here on the far right flank. And their cavalry has continued to move forward a bit cautiously because it doesn't want to get, didn't think it could reach its charge distance, so just did a relatively normal move forward, and their dragoons have moved forward to start engaging the Royalist dragoons in that wood line. Alright, we'll move on to firing in this turn. Also, the 1 parliamentarian artillery gun, its Saker, there has swung itself to the left to potentially again support that left flank. Right, let's do shooting for the parliamentarians. Okay, so the dragoons in the wood are opening fire. They're using 2 units of ammunition, so all of the figures are fire. That'll be 12 shots against these dragoons. They would normally hit on 4s, because they've got a ballistic skill of 3. It'll be 5s because they moved, but 4s because it's the first turn of firing, and they're all under half range, so simply 4s to hit. Okay, let's see how we've done. Pretty good. So that is 7 casualties against these dragoons, and it's strength 4 for a musket, toughness 3 for normal infantry, for normal mounted dragoons, so that will be 3s to win them. Okay, a couple more drop away, but that's 5 casualties, which will be more than 25%, so there will be a panic test on this unit of dragoons. We'll roll for saves. It'll be at least at -1. If it's -2, there are no saves. Okay, so that was pretty devastating volley from those dragoons. So you've lost 5 of them. There'll be a leadership test on Prince Rupert's leadership, which is 10. Alright, roll of a 9. They are fine, but have been severely damaged. Okay, we're going to fire the Scottish dragoons at the far end of the table. Same ballistic skill, so again they will be normally hitting on 4s, hitting on 5s because their targets are skirmishers in this case, and they moved, hitting on 6s. They'll go down to 5s because it's the first turn of firing for those dragoons. In fact, it'll be 6s because not only are they firing at skirmishers, they're firing at targets in soft cover. Alright, no hits, 2 units of ammo used up, and no effect for the Scottish dragoons. Alright, I think that's it. On to hand-to-hand combat and the continuation of combat here in the centre. Okay, so we'll do the Queen's Lifeguard first. Only 3 figures in combat because we've only got partial overlap of the basing here on this one. So that'll be 4 sword attacks and 3 pistol attacks for the Queens as they go out. They charge, so they roll first. Alright, they'd be hitting on 3s, but they only get 3 hits this time, not nearly as lucky as last time. And then for damage, there'll be strength 3 against toughness 3, so 4s to hit. 2 casualties, and a save of 6 on the red dice, and 5s or 6 is on the other one. Okay, so that's 2 casualties on that unit of dragoons. Okay, I'm fighting back, sorry, not dragoons, but they are indeed just regular Scottish cavalry, so just their leader and standard bearer can fight back. Alright, they need 4s to hit, they've got 2 hits. And then they'll be on strength 3, toughness 4, so 5s for them to wound. Wow, 2 wounds and saves of 5s or 6s. So we saved the sword thrust but did take 1 casualty on the Queens. They have, however, won that combat. So the dragoons will auto-break, being charged by gallopers. Let's see how far they flee. They flee 3, 1 more dice. They flee 8 inches. And the Queen's Hussars will pursue, my gosh, only 5. So again, they don't capture the standard, and they won't quite be off this table, but they will have charged into the commander of the parliamentarian left wing there. Okay, we'll do the break tests first on the commander himself. That's a test of 8. He's fine, but he will get charged into. Then these dragoons, who are just so effective. 10, they fail. They will do a flee, and they flee 6. And then finally, this unit here. An 8. Now the commander didn't flee. We'll check the range, but they may be all right on an 8. Okay, so this is really looking good for the Royalists on this flank. Unfortunately, it was 13 inches away. So the regular pike block of the Eastern Association has broken and fled. Fortunately, not quite off the table. It rolled a double 6. It's just short of the table edge, as long as with its Scottish colleagues. And the Queen's Hussars have charged now into the general on the left flank, and there we have the dragoons fleeing as well. So cascade failure on this flank for the parliamentarians. Let's do the combat with the King's Lifeguard. Okay, rolling for the King's Lifeguard. These guys need 3s to hit. Pretty good roll there. 3 misses. And then strength 4, toughness 3. Sorry, strength 3, toughness 3. So these will be 4s to wound. Again, another pretty good roll for the Royalists on this flank. So that's 3 pistol shots, saving at 6s. That's 1 save. And then 2 sword thrusts, saving on 5s or 6s. No save, so that's 4 casualties for the parliamentarians. So again, it's not simultaneous in the second round of combat. The Royalists have higher initiative, being veterans against steady troopers. So we will only get the leader and the commander to fight back, so just 5 attacks for the parliamentarians. Okay, needing 5s to hit, because their weapon skill is 1 lower, so that's 3 hits. And then 5s to wound, because the Royalist troopers are toughness 4 and attacks are strength 3. 2 wounds, that's pretty good. 2 on pistol shots, so the Royalists will need saves of 6s, which they don't make. So 2 casualties on the King's Guard, but they have still won by 2. Okay, so now doing their leadership test at -2. 7, 8, 9, and of course they have been hit by gallopers, so they will automatically break in any event. Alright, that's 3d6 flee. Wow, that's again devastating news for the parliamentarians. They go off the table. And the Royalists will pursue. Well, 15. And the parliamentarians have fled 11, 12, 13, 14. So they have captured that standard. And we'll see where a 15-inch move takes the Royalists. Okay, so the Queen's Guard have hit the rear of the fleeing Scottish Dragoons. So I'm sure they either have to flee again or are in any event automatically wiped out. So those Scottish troopers also now disappear from the table and don't have a chance to rally. Okay, so that's the end, and that was, to remind ourselves, parliamentarian turn 2. So pretty terrible results caused on them by the Royalist cavalry this turn, and more damage going to be caused, I'm sure, as we again charge with our Royalist troopers. Okay, well, we'll move on with Royalist movement. Turn 2, charges to declare. Okay, so we've completed Royalist movement, and our cavalry here are going to remain stationary. They can countercharge, being gallopers. So rather than charging in turn 3, they're going to let the parliamentarians charge onto them in turn 4, which will, again, delay combat on this flank and allow our right flank attacks to hopefully have more effect. Otherwise, all of our units will remain stationary and expect some significant amount of salvoing from the Royalist line this turn. And on the other flank, the Royalist cavalry needs to sort of reposition itself, win these combats, and then start trying to roll up the parliamentarian flank. The Dragoons here tried to charge their Dragoon colleagues, and they were 16.5 inches away, so just failed that charge. The Queen's Lifeguard remain in combat with the Parliamentarian General, but the King's Lifeguard have contacted that fleeing unit of pikemen, who will have to take a flee response, I assume, being contacted, and will be wiped out and driven off the table as well. Right, on we go. Okay, so these Parliamentarian Dragoons are going to open fire, and they will do against the Parliamentarian Cavalry unit out in the open, firing out from the wood line. So they would normally need a 4 to hit. First time they're firing, so this will be a 3s. They are using up 2 units of ammunition, so both all figures can fire. Alright, okay, so that's 3 hits, and these are muskets, so that's strength 4 against veterans. Parliamentarians are veterans on this flank, so that'll be toughness 4. This will be 4s to wound. A 2, 1, and a 5, so that's 1 wound, and no save, as they only wear light armour, but no panic test on the Parliamentarian cavalry. Okay, we'll open up with our Parliamentarian foot. So they only start with a basic ballistic skill of 2, so they need 5s to hit. Normally, it's the first time of firing, so they get a bonus 1. So these guys will be hitting on 4s against the Scots Musketeers. Alright, not very good. 3 casualties against the Scots. And these will be strength 4 shots, toughness, so 3s to wound, no saves, 1 Scots casualty. Oh, base of 4, I take that off. And again, you can use the combined strength of the whole unit as they're all within 2 inches of one another. So there's, what's that, 10, 20, 36 figures, I think, in that unit. So 25% casualties is an awful lot, and they're a long way away from it at the moment. All right, we'll fire the second sleeve of shot, again, needing 4s against the next sleeve of Scots Musketeers. Okay, again, not very good firing, only 2 hits, 3s to wound, 1 wound, 1 more casualty against the Scots. Not great firing from the Royalists so far. Alright, this sleeve here will now fire. They're going to go against the pikemen because they see them as a bigger threat. So we'll fire those. A bit better this time, needing 4s to hit, that's 5 hits, and then 3s to kill. Alright, that's 5 casualties. I'll just put 5 on there, take those off in a second. Alright, and then this sleeve will fire. It's also going to fire against the Musketeers. It's going to fire against the Orange Musketeers. We want to gang up on that orange unit. 4s to hit, and I've got 1 more dice to roll. Okay. That again was very good. 3s to kill. Wow, really good. That's 4 casualties against the pike block. Okay, need to get a few more dice. That's only 6 dice now. We're going to fire this next sleeve of shot. We will also fire against the pikeman. 3s to hit. 4s to hit. That wasn't very good. Only 2 hits, 3s to kill. But 2 more kills against the pikeman. And then finally, the final sleeve of shot will fire against the musketeers. They're in half range. So again, 4s to hit. Very disappointing. Only 2 hits, 1 more killed. So 1 on that sleeve of shot. Okay, I'll go and take those casualties, and then we'll do our light guns. Okay, before we do the artillery fire, that is 25% casualties against the orange unit. It's had 27 figures in it. It suffered 7 casualties, so it would need 28 or more to be above 25%, or less than 25%. So let's do the leadership test. They need a 7 or less. Sorry, they need a 7 or less to stand. Wow, 10. This flank is all over the place. They break and they will flee. And they go 7 inches. Okay, so we're going to fire the light gun against the advancing green pikeman. So we're going to guess 4 inches. 4 inches plus 10 is 14, and then bounces a further 4. So it goes from 14 to 18 inches away. Let's measure that from this gun. So 14 is just 1 figure. So the rest of the bounce misses that target unit and it causes 1 more casualty. 1 or 2 or more. Yeah. That's now 6 casualties to mark off against the green unit. Okay, and this gun here, it will fire into that mass of retreating orange and that Scottish unit that's beyond it. Alright, so I'm going to guess that's about 20 inches. So it'll go 24, and then bounces another 10 to 34. Let's see where that takes us. Okay, so 24 was just beyond the orange unit, but the bounce through to 34 takes it through 4 of those Scotsmen. And that's 4 casualties against the Scots unit of pikemen. Although much reduced, the Eastern Association Regiment here is still intact and hasn't had to take a panic test. And indeed the Scots back there only took 20% casualties, not 25% casualties, as the artillery balls smashed through their ranks. Alright, and that's it for shooting this turn. Still looking like a good strong right flank for the parliamentarians, but their damage on the left is starting to ripple through to the centre. This is not looking good for them. Alright, we've just got the hand-to-hand combat against the general and against the fleeing orange pike block. Okay, so fortunately for the parliamentarians, at least some of the damage has been mitigated. The dragoons have rallied. The Army General and the Orange Regiment were pursued off the table or defeated in hand-to-hand combat, so both of those Royalist regiments have now left the table. Over here, pursuing the fleeing parliamentarian forces, over here the Second Orange Regiment did rally at the beginning of the turn, and the Scots unit behind it also passed its panic test for having a fleeing unit nearby. So that's all good for the parliamentarians. We'll go on and declare charges with our cavalry over on the other flank. Okay, so we're starting the shooting over here, and our rallied dragoons, I think they can fire in the turn they've rallied, so they're going to fire off all their remaining ammunition against this small Royalist dragoon regiment. It's all at short range, so they'll normally be hitting on 5s. It's not first turn of firing, so it'll be a 5s to hit. Let me just check dragoons. I have a ballistic skill of 2. Yeah, no, I was just questioning that in my own mind. It is right, they do have a ballistic skill of 3. So they will normally be hitting on 4s, but it's not first turn of firing, so it'll be 4s to hit. Okay, pretty good roll. Take the misses away, and then it'll be 3s to wound. Right, so that is 3 wounds. Well, let me just check that. I think that was more than 3 wounds. I think that might have been 5 wounds. Hang on a second. Okay, I did just check that and play that back. At least there was 1 more 3 in that, but I couldn't quite see from replaying the video how many 3s I'd rolled. So I'm going to assume it's 4 3s. That will then definitely be a panic test on that unit with leadership of 7. Leadership of 6. They still remarkably have one guy standing. Firing the remaining Scottish Dragoons now for the Parliamentarians. They will be hitting on 6s, so they do nothing. 4s normally, 5s into woods, 6 into skirmishers. So I slightly should have brought my Royalist Dragoons into skirmishers on the right flank. That would have done a lot to preserve them. Okay, let's do some firing down here. We've got some sleeves of shot firing against the Royalists. Okay, and it just reminded me that you do actually have to take a panic test the first time you're hit by a salvo. Now, we didn't do that for the Royalists, so we won't do it for this first set of salvoing for the Parliamentarians, and then we'll come back and work through the consequences properly as we move further through the game. Charlie's just come in to survey the results of the game so far. What do you think, Charlie?
Very good for the Royalists. So I have a new plan now. So I want these troops up here.
Yeah.
And the troops behind to start doing an offensive onto them.
Yeah.
I want those guys and everything else to hold the position. They carry on doing a delaying act. I want my cavalry to start going down here. And it's going to not actually try and charge the artillery head on. It's going to go past the artillery, go through the infantry, and try and hit them, try and go against this cavalry here.
All right, that sounds like a really good plan. Sounds remarkably what the Parliamentarians did at Marston Moor. Let's see if the Royalists can pull it off in this game. All right, cheers, Charlie. We'll carry on with the salvo firing. Okay, firing the first lot of Scottish musketmen, needing 5s to hit. That's 2 hits, and then needing 3s to kill. 2 kills against them. Alright, next salvo against the same unit. 5s to hit, that's 3 hits, and then 3s to kill. 1 more killed. Okay, and then my third unit will fire against the next sleeve of musketeers. Well, that's a good one. Well, that's 5. That was 5 hits. And roll casualties. That's 4. Then the green musketeers will again fire against the reds. Wow, another tremendous shot. Only 2 misses. And 3 casualties against those musketeers. All right. And then we'll fire our final sleeve against one of these units of musketeers. Wow, we've done some remarkable firing by the Parliamentarians. That's 4 hits and 3 casualties against the sleeve here. Okay, so that devastating firepower has caused 25% casualties against this Royalist unit. That rolls a 9, but it is within 12 inches of Charlie's general, so they stand. Okay, so that's the end of the Parliamentarian firing in turn 3. We'll now start with the hand-to-hand combat. This should also be heavily weighted towards the charging sides. Chances, as both Parliamentarian units here are veterans, and Charlie's Fairfax unit also is in heavy armour. So let's roll up the combats. We'll start with Fairfax. Okay, let's roll for the troopers first. These will be hitting on 3. Not a great roll. 5, 6 misses. And then these will still be strength 3, but against toughness 3, so this will be 4s to wound. Wow, terrible. Only 1 casualty to the Parliamentarians, perhaps it isn't their day. And then Fairfax will have a go. Hitting on 3s. Okay, 4s to wound. Okay, I will just go and check his strength. Isn't strength 4? He is indeed strength 4, but only has 2 attacks. So we'll roll him again. Okay, so rolling Fairfax again. That's only 1 hit this time. Strength 4 against toughness 3, so 3s to wound. 1 wound, 1 save of 5 or 6. No save. And then 2 saves of 6s. No, so that's 3 casualties for the Royalists. Okay, so the Royalists fight back. It is simultaneous as they counter-charged. They will be hitting on 4s. Again, a set of not great rolls. And then they'll be wounding on 5s. 2 wins. And saves. Heavy armour. Will save, they'll save the sword thrust, but not the pistol shot. So the parliamentarians cause 1 casualty. There'll be a leadership test, -2 on the Royalist cavalry. They roll a 7. So their leadership will indeed be 8, and they've lost by 2. That's a fail by 1. So they do indeed lose the combat and break. Let's see how far they flee and how far the Royalists go. The parliamentarians pursue them. So the Royalists go 8, and the parliamentarians go 7, so they don't catch them. Now repeating the combat for the second set of regiments. Okay, how have we done? Better this time for the parliamentarians. Okay, so all those hits, and then to wound. These will be strength 3, toughness 3, so these will be 4s to wound. Not so good on the wounds, only 3 wounds on the Royalists. Let's do their saves. Blues on 5s and reds on 6s. No, so that's 3 casualties against the 2nd Parliamentarian Regiment. But again, as they countercharged, they get to fight back. They will be hitting on 4s. Okay, and then wounding on 4s. 2 wounds. And no saves. So 2 casualties for the parliamentarians, but again, they've won by 1. So a leadership test at -1. So again, the parliamentarians win that combat. Royalists break. Let's see how far they go. Should be 3d6. I don't know whether I did 3d6 on the other dice. 8, that's 10 for the Royalists. And let's see how far the parliamentarians pursue. They catch them. So the parliamentarians are wiped out. Sorry, I think I said parliamentarians are wiped out. I meant Royalists are wiped out. But the pursuit's not quite far enough to hit this next unit of Royalist cavalry that's sitting in support in the rear. So good success for the parliamentarians. They won both those combats, even if only marginally, but haven't quite destroyed the Royalist cavalry yet. Now let's do the related break tests for a combat being lost within 12 inches. So we'll start with the Royalist Dragoons. They are fine. Now, if you outnumber the unit that's broken by 2 to 1, you don't have to flee. So we have units of 12 cavalry, so if we're more than 24 strong, we don't have to flee. So this unit of King's Guard here is definitely alright, but the unit of Red Musketeers and pikemen in front of it is 20, 24, 25, 26, 22 strong. So it does have to take a leadership test on King Charles's leadership. It survives and it is okay. Alright, that's it for turn 3 for the parliamentarians. It's now the Royalist turn. Okay, so on the Royalist left flank, their cavalry is fighting again to try and hold off this attack by the parliamentarians. Their reserve regiment has charged in to the victorious parliamentary unit that have wiped out its colleagues, and the 2nd regiment has successfully reformed. So we'll see what they can do to hold off another assault by the parliamentarians next turn. The King's Life Guard has shifted its position slightly to start protecting its flank, while the unit that was heavily hammered by the Scots last turn has moved its pike block forward to start assaulting the Scots here. As we move towards the centre, Prince Rupert's regiment is starting to move forward into the front line, and then as we move across, the far right hand regiments of the Royalists are starting to wheel in, and their cavalry is repositioning itself to either clear those annoying dragoons or start putting pressure on the left flank as Charlie ordered. Alright, we will have some charges later on amongst the cavalry, but we will do the shooting next. Okay, so the only firing for the Royalists will be the artillery this turn, as their units all salvoed last turn in the front line, and therefore can't fire the next turn. So we will shoot, let rip with our artillery. Okay, again, this battery is going to go and fire at the Green Regiment. That still looks the most productive target. It's going to guess a range of 2, which we had 4, so it goes 6. Let's see how far it bounces. It doesn't go any further than 6 inches, so that won't achieve anything. And then this second light artillery battery will again fire at the Orange Regiment. We're going to guess a range of 16. We had 4, so we go 20. And between 20 and 28, I'll just measure that up. Okay, so the cannibal did clip the front of the orange unit, but caused no casualties, and went on and did a couple of casualties to the Scots musketeers that were behind it. Alright, we'll move on to the hand-to-hand combat once again. Okay, so the Royalists have crashed in. They're charging. They will go first because they're gallopers against trotters, so the trotters can't counter-charge. And that means we need 4s to hit. Okay, pretty good roll by the look of it. And then 4s to wound, because these are veterans. Okay, another pretty good roll by the Royalists. That's a good result. So that's 3 casualties from pistol fire, so they would need 6s to save. Save 1, that's 2 of them dead. And then 3 casualties from swordplay. Need 5 casualties, that's another 2 parliamentarians dead. That's quite tough. Alright, so the parliamentarians will get to shoot, actually, as the Royalists charged in. We'll do that first, because they have their pistol shots. Their ballistic skill of 4, but they charge, so they need 5s to hit. That's 2 hits. 4s to wound, no wounds, so nothing from their pistol shots. Alright, so they've lost 4 of the front rank, so they only have 2 figures left in their front rank. So that'll be the leader and the standard. That'll be 5 attacks from the trotters. Okay, so that is 2 hits, and it will be 4s to wound. No wounds, oh my gosh. That's not good. The Royalist cavalry have crushed the parliamentarians. Hope I got that right, but it certainly seems pretty conclusive. Alright, so that'll be a test at -4. They do have Fairfax, so they'll need to get a 6 or less. A 9. They break. Let's see how far they go. They go 9, 10, 11 inches, and the Royalists pursue. Wow, they've wiped them out. A Royalist victory. We'll do some break tests. Alright, that's a bit of a turn up for events. I really hadn't expected the Royalist cavalry to do anything down here. I just expected them to get rolled over by the parliamentarians, especially as they're a higher morale status. Alright, so this is tough for the parliamentarians now. They just about hanging onto this flank. They've got their supporting unit that they can charge in this turn, and they've got their good strength Scottish infantry regiments. So let's see them pile into action, but they need to really worry about their left flank and their centre. I don't think there's long left for them in this game. Royalists are doing pretty well. Okay, movement's complete. The Scottish Lancers have charged in. Fairfax's heavy cavalry have charged in. Scots have started to move some of their pikemen forward here, but they're holding steady in the centre. They can't actually fire this turn, but they could salvo if they get charged next turn, so they're remaining steady there. They've continued to redeploy another Scottish regiment to reinforce their flank, and holding steady with Hampton's regiment, I think that is, in green. Alright, and we'll start shooting for the parliamentarians. Okay, so the 2 sleeves of the Orange Regiment haven't moved this turn. The Scots to their left moved a little bit to adjust their position and try and move both their sleeves and shot into firing positions in future turns. So we're going to fire 1 at Prince Rupert's bodyguard, just here, and 1 into the Orange Regiment. This will be their first turn of firing, so they will get 8 shots each. Normally hitting on 5s, 4s, because it's the first turn of firing. We'll just check the ranges. Unfortunately for the Eastern Association, although Rupert is within 12-inch range just, the Red Regiment here is just a fraction over 12 inches away. So we'll fire at them first. This will be hitting on 5s. Right, not a bad shot, given that they were hitting on 5s. That's 4 hits. Again, 3s to kill. Ah, that's pretty terrible. Just one casualty on this regiment. But as we are now doing Salvo Far properly, that is a casualty from Salvo Far, so they will need to take a leadership test, which they pass. Okay, firing the second sleeve against Rupert and his regiment. So they will need 5s to hit these. Sorry, 4s to hit these, because they are under half range. And 4s to wound them, because they are toughness 4. Nothing at all. It really isn't going the parliamentarians' way. Right, that's all they're firing, because everyone else salvoed last turn, so they can't fire. So we're on to hand-to-hand combat on the left flank. Okay, so as these guys are lancers, that'll be a +1 strength. So let's see, that'll be 7 attacks and 6 pistol shots from the Scots. They charged, and the Roundheads will have counter-charged. Okay, so we will need 4s to hit, because both of these units are simply regulars. So good with the pistols, not so good with the lances. Alright, and then the lances will need 3s to wound, and the pistol shots 4s. Okay, so 1 pistol shot and 3 lance wounds, so that's 4 casualties. Okay, and the saves will all be on 6s. 1 save, so 3 casualties against the Royalist. Okay, so attacking will be simultaneous as both units count as charging. Okay, so the Royalists will be hitting on 4s. Not a bad roll of hits. Okay, and then everything will be at strength 3, toughness 3, so it'll be 4s to wound. 1, 2, only 3 wounds against the Scots. Saves of 5s or 6s. 3 casualties, so 3 casualties each. That will be a draw. They will carry on fighting. Okay, so doing Fairfax's charge first. Dice to roll. Okay, he will be hitting on 3s. Because these are all veterans against regulars. And then they will be wounding on 4s. Okay. Then we get 2 attacks for Fairfax himself. And a pistol shot for Fairfax himself. 2 more hits. And no wounds. Alright. And then saving throws. 5s and 6s on the red dice. So that's 3 casualties on the Royalists. Okay, and the Royalists get to fight back. So again. Okay, they will need 4 hit. Not a bad roll by them. Oh gosh, they're being lucky again. And then these are against toughness 4, so they will need 5s to win though. That's a tough ask. Only 1 wound, there would have only been 2 normally, and a save of 4+, because they're in heavy armour. No, so that's 1 casualty. And then we get the Royalist General to fight. He hits only once. Strength 4, so he's wounding on 3. Yeah, that's a wound. That will be with a pistol, so this is a -1, so a 5-up save. No, that's a 2nd casualty. But they have won the combat by 1. That'll be a leadership test at -1. And we're outside the range of Charles, so this will be on a leadership of 8. No, they break and flee. Let's see how far they go, but almost certainly off table. Yeah, 12-14, and they're pursued, but they aren't caught. They are pursued 11 inches. All right, we'll just apply that. Okay, so better news for the parliamentarians down here. Fairfax's charge succeeded. He's destroyed the unit of Royalist cavalry opposing him and has slammed into the King's Lifeguard. Could be dodgy for the King's Lifeguard here. They're not allowed to do any sort of reaction other than hold. So they simply have to take that charge as it moves directly forward into them. They have, however, also contacted the pike block corner to corner, so the pike block can fight in this combat. We'll see how that plays through as we move into that subsequent turn of combat. That's the end of turn 4 for the parliamentarians. We're now on to turn 4 for the Royalists. And just to confirm, we have King Charles's leadership here, leadership 10, anything in 12 can use his leadership. So we have done the break tests on both the Life Guard and the other Red regiment, and indeed we did a test on the successfully charging gallopers over there for the Royalists, and all of them have passed their leaderships of 7 or 10 as appropriate. So no further breaks for the Royalist army, but they did also lose their general as he fled off the table in front of Fairfax. Alright, on to turn 4 with charges for the Royalists. Okay, so the Life Guard and Prince Rupert's bodyguard have charged this Scots regiment. The Queen's Life Guard, although it's taken it completely out of the battle, has charged this Dragoons just to try and wipe out that potential threat on a flanking manoeuvre. In the centre, what is now the centre, the Royalist regiments are now moving forward following the King's orders to further pressure the parliamentarian left. The pike block over there has charged into the Scots. The King's Life Guard will have to feign a hand-to-hand combat over here, and we will have some shooting from these units in the centre. Now, I did already move the Scottish pike block forward and the musketeers back, but they would have had a chance to do a fire. I don't think they can salvo and then fall back, because that would be firing and movement, and you can't move and salvo in the same turn. So I think that's right. So it'll just be 4 shots. They normally need 5s. They will need 6s because the enemy is charging. Well, that's 2 hits against the King's Life Guard. This will be toughness 4, strength 4 for force for wounds. No wounds, so no effect from that firing. And those 2 units of Scots now fall back behind that unit there. Alright, we will also then do the firing for these 2 Scottish sleeves here, so there will be 8 shots here. Again, they normally need 5s, so they'll need 6s against the advancing pike block, and they will then also fall back behind their pikemen. Well, pretty good roll, 3 hits. And again, this will be only 3s to wound. Not so good. 1 wound, 1 dead man from the pike block. Alright, I'll just go and move those units. Okay, so we'll start off with our cannon again, firing at the orange unit. It's our favourite. In fact, we might switch target. We're going to go for the green musketeers here, and then that Scotch unit behind them. That looks like a better opportunity target. We're going to guess there's a range of about, get the right dice, a range of about 10 to the front unit. 10 plus 6 is 16, and then we get a bounce through of 10. So 16 to 26. I'll just measure that, see what we hit. That was pretty optimal, but they are just too far apart. Unfortunately, 16 just clipped the front of the green unit, so we hit 2. But 26 then ends up just short of the following up red flagged Scottish unit. So that's 2 casualties against there, and they both are killed. Alright, we'll now fire from these units here. We're only going to fire a single shot from this left-hand sleeve, because it's only got 5 guys in it, so I might as well get 2 shots of 4 rather than 1 shot of 5. So we will fire first volley, 4 shots, using 5s to hit the green one. We'll go at the pikeman. Pretty good, that's 2 hits, and that will be 3s to wound. 2 wound, 2 dead pikemen. And then we'll salvo from this unit on the right, so that will use up all its remaining ammunition. First off, 8 men, getting 5s. Wow, that's another really good roll. That's 5 casualties, and then 3 to kill. Alright, 3 more dead musketeers. Alright, so that's that unit fired this turn, and the gun fired this turn. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh no, we've got a sleeve here. This sleeve didn't move. It will fire a single shot against those advancing Scots. Needing 5s. 1 hit. No wound. 1 dead Scots hand. I'll put the extra shot on there. I think that is all the firing I want to do. Fired those, everyone else moved. Guns now out of ammunition down here. Yep, that's it. That's hand-to-hand combat, and we'll just check. So we did the 5 dead green guys you can see there, and 2 more I took off a second ago. So we did 7 casualties. So we've got 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 plus 7 is 26, 14, 28. That is 25% casualties. Let's do a leadership test. There is no general nearby on the Green Regiment. It is fine. Right. On we go. Okay, so fighting with the Queen's Lifeguard first against the Musketeers. Hitting on 3s. Okay. Then wounding on 4s. Well, that was pretty good. No saves on the... Well, yep, saves. A little bit in light armour? Yes, I guess they are in light armour. So saves of 5 and 6 or 6. So 1 save, but no saves against the pistol shots. So that's 4 casualties on the Dragoons. And then 3 attacks back from the Dragoons, because they don't have pistols. That's 1 hit from one of the Dragoons, which doesn't wound. They lose that combat, they lose it by 4, their leadership's only 7. Well, yeah, they roll an 8, so they have lost, but only by 1. They are outnumbered as well, actually, so they will be losing it by 2. So they break. And they're hit by calibers anyway, so they would automatically break. They flee 11, 12, 13, and the Lifeguard pursue 9, 10, 11, 12, so we don't quite catch them. But I think 13, unfortunately, for the Dragoons, will take them off the table edge. Okay, so fighting with the pike block, they will get to go first because of the huge reach of their pikes. So they will be hitting on 4s. That's 3 hits. Strength 3 against toughness 4, so that's 5s to wound. No wounds. I will just check that you don't get a strength bonus. If they do, they've potentially caused 1 wound on the Royalist cavalry. Okay, so they don't get a +1 to strength, so that was no casualties against the cavalry. But they are an extra -1 to hit for cavalry because of the difficulty of attacking a pike unit. I think this shows the advantages that the cavalry will achieve of going against a pike unit that's been whittled down in strength so much. So loads of attacks coming in from the cavalry, pistol and sword attacks, and I'll have to roll them in 2 goes. They will be normally needing 3s to hit, but this will be 4s because of that -1 penalty. So they've done pretty well. Let's take out the misses from these dice rolls. Okay, so a fairly good suite of hits, and these will be wounding on 4s. Right. Okay, and no saves. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 casualties against the Scots. They don't have a general nearby, so they are going to fail this break test. Indeed they do. They flee 8 inches, and that will probably take them off the table. The cavalry will almost certainly run them down. Cavalry pursue 8, 9, 10 inches from the Lifeguard, and actually only 6 from Rupert's bodyguard. Okay, so the Orange Regiment has somewhat surprisingly passed its break test. And don't worry, those pikes you can see there in front of my cavalry are just dead casualties actually of the Orange unit. So that and that little cluster of figures behind the other Scottish unit are dead casualties, just so I don't forget which goes with which unit. So they that flank for the parliamentarians looks in terrible straits, and in fact the Eastern Association Army has pretty much been destroyed at this stage. Okay, we'll go and fight the combat here as the Royalist Infantry Regiment goes into the Scots. The Scots will have the advantage in this one because in the first turn of combat you get to attack with 4 ranks with your pikemen, and they will certainly, I think, survive this combat. But with the leadership of King Charles nearby, hopefully the Royalists will stay in the fight and it'll progress into a second round. Right, let's roll for the Scots. They will be hitting on 4s. Again, can't quite get all the dice into my hand. I'll do them in 2 goes. Good roll by the look of it. Yeah, perhaps not quite so good. Alright, that many hits, and then to wound, strength 3, toughness 3, 4s to wound. Wow, that's really good. So that's 7 casualties on the Royalists. That's going to be painful. The Royalists get to fight back. So they will only get their leader and standard bearer because you can only attack with the front 2 ranks, so they only get 5 attacks back. This is going to be tough for the Royalists. I think they may lose this in hindsight. Alright, that's only one hit, 1 wound, no save, so they have lost by 6. Be a leadership test at -6, -7 for being outnumbered. They fail, needless to say, even with that leadership of 10. So they're going to flee 12, and parliamentarians only pursue them 4. Okay, so now some critical leadership rolls for the Royalists. Let's do Charles first, make sure he doesn't run off. Wow, that looked like it was going to be an 11. He would have gone. That would have been bad news for all the other tests. So they stand. Let's test Prince Rupert's regiment. They are fine, and then the King's Lifeguard. They are fine as well, and the gun crew. They are fine too. Alright, all Royalist units survived, but we do have a filleting unit in our lines. Well, let's do the hand-to-hand combat down here, as Fairfax charges in against the Lifeguard. Alright, another important combat. Let's roll for the parliamentarians as they charged. Wow, that was a good roll. Hitting on 3s. And then for Fairfax himself, also hitting on 3s. Then Fairfax will be wounding on, let me just check the toughness of the Lifeguard. I expect there'll be 4. Yeah, so Fairfax will be wounding on 4s, everyone else will be wounding on 5s. Fairfax does 1 wound, actually with his pistol shot. And then the cavalry. God, did I hit with all the pistols? I obviously did. These will be wounding on 5s. 1, 2, 3. So that's 4 dead Royalists. Okay, so we do get the opportunity to fight back, but only with 4 pikemen. Okay, so they hit twice. 5s to wound, no wounds. So that's a test at -4. This could be tough, even with a leadership of 10. 6, they stand. Wow, that's a big sigh of relief. There won't be so much at risk next time as the rest of the units continue the combat. Okay, and now the combat between the cavalry units. So the Royalists and the Highlanders, Scots rather, have the same initiative. So they'll be fighting simultaneously at exactly the same stats. Alright, for the Royalists first. Needing 4s to hit. Okay, and then 4s to wound. Okay, and saves of 6s for the Highlanders, for the Scots, for the pistol shots, and then 5s for the others. So 3 casualties on the Scots this turn. Okay, and now for the Scots fighting. 4s to hit, another pretty good roll. Alright, and then 4s to wound. Wow, that is really good. 6 for the Royalists, 1 save, and then 5s for the sword thrusts, 2 saves. So 4 casualties to the Royalists, they lose by 1. Okay, so a leadership test of 6 or less needed. They fail. Royalists are broken. But they don't get caught. Alright, I'll move those and apply that result. Okay, so the Scots Lancers have broken their opposition, but they haven't caught them. We rolled a 4, so we have passed the break test on our Dragoons. Nothing else was within 12 inches. Alright, that's the end of turn 4. And it's still pretty close. It's really interesting how well Fairfax is doing here, although they are nearly out of pistol ammunition, which will halve the effectiveness of that remaining parliamentarian cavalry unit on this flank. I think we will play turn 5, see how it goes. Right, not huge difference in turn 5. For the parliamentarians, their cavalry charged, and the Royalists fled in front of them. Royalists are, fortunately for them, still on table to have a chance to rally next turn. and the parliamentarians had a failed charge because they didn't have enough to quite catch the Royalists. So they halt there. Some of the Scots regiments have moved forward to put pressure on the Royalist end of the line here. Otherwise, on this flank, the Scots regiments continue to change their facing to face off against this cavalry threat, and we'll do some volleying with the remaining Eastern Association regiments. Let's see how their firing goes. Unfortunately for the King's Lifeguard, we've reminded ourselves in the rules you can do a happy round, but only if you're the victorious unit. And the victorious unit, you do not want to let round. I presume you get to choose. So they will stay attacking that sleeve of shot and the edge of the pike block. This is, as I said, the last time they get their pistols, but they may again be successful in breaking the Lifeguard. Let's see how they do this time. Okay, salvo in here. First one needs 5 stings. It's 2 hits, and then it'll need 3s to kill. 1 kill, and that will be a panic test on this regiment for being hit by a salvo. Second salvo will fire against the other regiment, needing 5s to hit. Pretty good. Then it will need again 3s to kill. Oh, no kills. So we'll do the leadership test on this regiment. They are fine. That's good for the Royalists. Alright, 1 shot from these 3 musketeers. We'll go into let's go into the Royalist pike block. It's 1 hit, which does cause a casualty. That's 1 from Prince Rupert's regiment, but not a salvo. Right, and then the other one will go into the musketeers. This will be a salvo. Well, that's good. 4 hits, 3s for casualty. That's 3 casualties. And a test for Rupert's regiment. They are fine. Alright. That was 3 casualties, I never remembered that right. Fortunately for the Royalists, they've survived both of those salvos. As we move across, we've got another Scots regiment here that can fire down at the King's Lifeguard. This is also a salvo. 2 hits, 2 6s, and again these need 3s to kill. 2 kills and a leadership test on the King's Lifeguard. 10, but the King's leadership is 10, so they are fine. Alright, I think that's it. Oh no, there will also be a salvo from the regiment on the other side of the green ones. We'll do it at our retreating cavalry. If we can do it below 4 and they're fleeing and cause casualty, they will flee off the table and not return. So again, needing 5s, that's very good. So 4 and 3s, 2 casualties at -2, no saves necessary. So that takes that unit down to a strength of 3, and that unit of Royalist cavalry is destroyed. Alright, let's roll the attack. We need 3s to hit, because we're fighting against musketeers who aren't as good. I don't know whether I got that right last time. Okay, so that's a good number of hits. And then we're strength 3, toughness 4, I think, so it'll be 5s to wound. 2 wounds, 2 dead, no saves. And then Fairfax's attacks. 2 hits, strength 4, so 4s to wound, no wounds. 2 casualties on the musketeers. They may hang on. Alright, fighting back, we get 4 men from the pike block and 2 of the musketeers and a leader dice as well. So we need 4s to hit. So we've got 4 hits. And really strength 3, toughness 4, so 5s to wound. 2 wounds, 2 saves, a 4, 5 or 6. 2 casualties. Oh, that was not expected on Fairfax. Alright, so Fairfax loses because he is outnumbered and indeed outranked, which perhaps we should have counted in the previous combat, so they probably wouldn't have lost by 4, they might have only lost by 1. Alright, so actually, yeah, there are 3 extra infantry ranks in that combat, so they didn't only not lose any casualties, they outnumber as well, so it's a -4 test on Fairfax. Fairfax stands, but that looks like they're going to lose that one now we've remembered the infantry bonus. Alright, that's it for the end of Parliamentarians, turn 5. Okay, so we've just done some bits of shooting. We've fired this large sleeveless shot, first turn, from the Prince Rupert's regiment into the Green Regiment of Musketeers here, caused 5 casualties. We fired these 2 sleeves of shot again into the Green Regiment and caused another casualty, so that's 6 casualties. So we would need 18 left for it not to take a break test. 8, 9, 10, no, so it'll need to take a break test. And we did salvo it, so it'd have to take one as well. And again here we've salvoed, only caused 2 casualties against the Orange Regiment, so it will also have to take a break test. So doing the Orange Regiment first, 8, leadership 7, they will fail and they will have to flee. And they flee 9 inches into the path of those cavalry, that's not good. And then the Green Regiment passes. Alright, we'll apply those results. Right, last action of turn 5, we'll do the hand-to-hand combat here with the King's Life Guard and Fairfax's regiment. So they've run out of pistol shots, they only get their sword attacks. They will, Fairfax will have 2, he's hitting on, they'll all be hitting on 4s actually. Oh no, they won't. Half of them will be hitting on 3s because the musketeers aren't so good in hand-to-hand combat. Hit on 3s, not great. 2 hits, and then these ones hitting on 4s. 2 more hits. Strength 4 from Fairfax, he will need 4s to wound. He doesn't wound, and these ones will need 5s to wound. Don't wound, no wounds at all from Fairfax's regiment. That does not bode well, they are going to lose this combat. So now, as the musketeers won the combat, they had a chance to lap round a bit. So they will have 4 attacks normally, and then they would have 2 from the engaged musketeers, and then I think that you can lap round 2 on each side, so they've probably got 2 more attacks, all from pikemen, so they're on weapon skill 4. So these ones will be hitting on 4s, as actually will the musketeers be. Get to re-roll 1 miss, because I don't have enough dice there. Not a great attack. Only 2 hits, that's pretty terrible actually. Oh, there's another 4 there, 3 hits. 5s to wound. 2 wounds, 2 saves of 4+. 1 casualty on Fairfax's regiment. So their armour's doing them good. They lose by 1, but then you've got the 3 extra rank bonuses and the fact that he's outnumbered. So this will be a test of -5 on Fairfax. He actually hangs on. So he's not broken. That at least is a bit of good news for the parliamentarians in this game. Alright, that's it. We've had great fun. I've certainly had great fun. I do love those Warhammer rules. Don't play them for ages. It is, I'm sure, totally unhistorical. Well, perhaps not totally unhistorical, but it's not necessarily a simulation game, but it certainly is a fun game. Loads of action, loads of cut and thrust, loads of units getting destroyed and breakthroughs. And I think really quite a good game here. So let's just do a quick recap of where we got up to. So Fairfax here didn't get defeated. He managed to survive those, 3 rounds of combat with the King's Life Guard infantry, but his unit was taking casualties, getting pulled down, impaled on pikes, were absolutely not able to break that formation. One of the best in the Royalist army. It was fighting as veterans, as indeed was his unit, but just the numbers were too great. So he's withdrawn, pulled back slightly. His right flank force, he had 3 regiments of cavalry here. He's got his very weak understrength sort of lifeguard regiment of heavies, and that small unit of Scots still in play. They have destroyed the Royalist cavalry on the left flank, but really have nothing left to exploit or push for victory. Really just a small force to help cover their own withdrawal. We still have some Royalist dragoons in the woods. They still have got some ammunition left, but just have stayed there to sort of pin the opposing parliamentarian dragoons who are out of ammunition. As we move across to the centre, the Scots are still in reasonable strength, but they have fired off the vast majority of their musketry ammunition in their front-line regiments. But they're still in pretty good shape. But they are facing off still against a pretty strong King's Life Guard and Rupert's regiment, who've started to fire through some of their ammunition, but still a reasonable amount of shots left. And apologies I didn't flag, but we did pass the rally test on that very small unit of Royalist pike and shot that got damaged earlier in the game by the heavy fire from the Scots. So they did reform and are now a bit of a reserve on this left flank. As we move across to the right, it's really all Royalists. So all the 3 right-hand regiments are pretty much undamaged. They have used up a fair amount of ammunition, but they've still got their pike blocks intact, and the left flank and the centre of the Parliamentary Army has collapsed. We've lost pretty much all of the Eastern Association regiments. We just have this regiment left here, but very much in front of all that Royalist cavalry. It is a victory for the Royalists.
Also, if
and the second remaining Eastern Association regiment is just that small relic we have there. So Scott's army has survived very much and is able to withdraw intact, but the other half of the Parliamentary Army has been pretty much wiped off the map. There's none of the cavalry left, all destroyed by the Royalist veteran cavalry, and looking at the casualties up on there, not only have we destroyed all of the right flank Parliamentary cavalry, but they've lost 4 regiments of foot, I think, 1 Scottish and 3 from the Eastern Association, and 2 more from the Eastern Association are on the point of collapse. So anyway, great game. Hope you really enjoyed it. It was fab to get my English Civil War figures out on the table. They play well on a nice big table like this. This was 10 by 4, something like that. And I think the ranges and the movement all works pretty well here. Anyway, see you all again next time, probably back to Napoleonics. Cheers, guys.